COVID testing site in the country by the end of the week. Officials hope it'll be the largest vaccination site. Now, all along the issue has
Hey, everybody.
Oh, you got an echo.
Yeah, I was just getting the live stream set up.
The live stream causes echoes? Wow.
It's
been
the
a little
delay. I
while.
had to close my YouTube screen.
That causes echo?
Yeah, so if you have like I had another window open that has the YouTube streaming and it has like a, I think like a maybe 5 or 6 second delay. So I closed that screen now that I have it set up.
Awesome.
I liked all your snow photos.
3 inches. It's crazy. I
Yeah.
don't know if anybody else got that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Preliminarily, everything looks okay. The cover crop, I thought, man, it's gone.
Yeah.
But green and beautiful.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
That was so fun.
How do you think my agave plants are going to hold up?
Just fine.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think since the
great.
ground temp, and it's not a hard freeze. Because I don't even know if the actual temperature got below freezing. It was just the atmospheric temperature was just so cold. We got all that snow.
What about my great, huge, wonderful rosemary? It's huge, it's cascading, and it was covered in snow.
Perfectly fine.
Oh, great. Well, that's a worry I don't have to deal with anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
I thought these tender vegetables would die, but they're fine.
Snow was pretty, but I had 30 years of that up in Michigan, and I really wasn't happy to see it here. But it's gone.
It was only really a whole day. It's
Yeah.
almost gone
It
today.
didn't stick around until April like we did up there.
Yeah, that might kill stuff. Wow, it's so great to see everybody coming in, and don't see a lot of cameras on though, so can't see everybody.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yeah, so do we have anybody new tonight? Like to introduce
Well-
themselves?
I'm Alicia. This is the first time I do this Zoom, so I'm not quite sure if I'm doing it correctly. But I can see you.
See you good.
Well, I could see you. Move my camera.
Hello. I just have I'm finishing up some dishes, so that's why I have mine off right now.
Can't see the dishes. You're okay.
Doing a couple of things real quick before we start.
So yeah, introduce yourself if you're brand new, and
Okay. Can you see me?
like to meet you. Yes,
you see me?
Brenda, I can see you.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Brenda Garza, and I live down in Brownsville, South Texas. I've been growing vegetables for about 9 years, and self-taught, novice, whatever. I just continue to learn things all the time, which makes me think I'm never really going to be a master gardener, because there's just so much to know and so many
The trick
times I
is
go
to
out,
learn
every
new
time I go
stuff.
out,
That's what
I
the
learn
trick
so
is.
much. Yeah, so I'm interested in this class, definitely.
Hi, I'm Brenda.
Well, so welcome. We're so glad you're here. You're welcome to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do we have any new members? We've been getting a lot of new members over the holidays.
I'm a new member. This is my very first time. I have a
Welcome,
very
Suzanne.
small yard, but I try very hard to do a lot of gardening, and I've really been trying to do a whole lot of composting, which I'm having great fun with. So any and all help, I am greatly appreciative.
All right.
Excellent. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
I'm also, I don't know if you can see me or not, but I'm also brand new at gardening and to the organization. And I'm also formerly from Brownsville.
All right. South Texas girl.
You bet.
I'd like to hear that. Anyone
You
else?
have me? I'm Emily Matheson, and I live in LaGrange, and I saw this on Facebook today and decided I would join in and see what it's all about. So my husband died. We used to garden together, but this was my first year to garden alone, and it was quite successful. I am quite proud. So yes, it's spurring me on to learn more.
We're welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
I'm Pat Ferguson, and I'm a new member.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Where in Austin do you live?
Hyde Park for about 45 years. I've been to half a dozen meetings over the years, but I want to become more active.
Probably never on Zoom though, right?
No. Maybe hopefully we'll get out there in person soon.
Hopefully.
Oh gosh.
Going on almost a year being online now. We've been online since Zooming since March, or
Yeah.
April, I guess. Anyone else new tonight?
Yeah, I'm
Oh, that's
first time. I just joined. My name's Heather. I live in North Austin. Pretty new to gardening.
See you.
Welcome.
I'm new, Al Gonzalez, Mountain Dripping Springs, just joined. I got this as a gift.
Oh, nice.
Joining the club as a gift?
Yes.
Well, excellent. What a nice gift.
Being
Yeah.
a
idea.
green boy, my son knows I have no green thumbs.
Do you like to garden?
I've never done it, so here we go.
Yay.
No time like the present.
Time to build your own little Amazon.
In fact, the present is a present. Oh, made a joke.
Hello. Can anybody see me?
No.
It looks like, why is it not? Why would it not be?
You got to turn on your video.
Well, I'm on an iPad. So I've
You got
never
to turn on your video.
Where do you do that?
Usually at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, there's, look around.
Let me see if there's something on the top.
It should say start video.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, got it. Ha
Anyone else new tonight?
I'm new. I live in New Braunfels, and I've done a lot of like different volunteering at different farms in and around like the Austin, San Antonio area. And I lived on a farm in Israel for 5 months, and I have a very small garden space at home, but I just plants and growing stuff is all something that I'm interested in keeping up with, even though it's not necessarily what I do for work. So, yeah.
Is that a kibbutz or is that the wrong word?
So that's what most people think. We went to a few different kibbutz and stayed at some and did some things there, but it was just a standalone farm permaculture program.
The soil there is very rich, but it's very dry. Is that true?
In different areas, it's interesting because there's so many different climates and everything because there's so much elevation change within the small country. But what the coolest things that I thought when I was there was we were at this one kibbutz that was in the middle of the desert, and it's like completely nothing around. And then all of a sudden we got up to where the date plantation part was, and it was just like tree after tree after tree because I guess because they were able to use most of the water is very salty over there. And so that was like the main thing that they were utilizing, the fact that they don't really have a lot of water, but they had a lot of like salted water.
So they have to desalinate there, right?
So one of the things they could grow without having to do the desalination was dates. And so they kind of turned it in. So it was just this like nothing. And then all of a sudden, giant green space of date palms.
Wow. I hear they go to extraordinary measures in Israel to do things with water there.
Where'd you go?
I see that Deborah has her hand raised. Deborah Duncan. Did you mean
Deborah, are you there?
Deborah Duncan has posted in the chat that she can't hear.
Oh, no. Huh.
Here.
Maybe.
Did she connect to audio? Did you push the audio button, Deborah?
It doesn't show she's muted.
Well, it doesn't. It's not about being muted. It's about connecting to audio. It's different.
Yeah, there's like a video connection and audio connection.
All right. Well, anyone else new tonight?
Hi, I'm Jyoti Venkatesh. I live in Round Rock. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
Okay. I'm a new gardener too. Do some vegetables very late in summer. Eggplant, okras. Did have quite a few goats. So I'm sorry about that. Just interested in learning new stuff about gardening.
Excellent. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm Joyce, real quick. I live in the Mueller area. I've been in Austin for over 25 years. Somehow managed to learn how to grow things in Texas. I'm from the Northeast, so it was a pretty big adjustment. But I am an avid gardener and avid composter. So thank you for letting me come.
Excellent. Welcome. Anyone else new tonight?
I'm new too. My name is Rachel. I have had a plot in the Sunshine Community Garden for about a year, and I'm just interested in gardening and kind of learning. And so just wanted to check out what this is all about.
Oh, this is so fun. I can't believe how many new people we have tonight.
Hi, this is Aparna. I'm new too. From Plano, Texas. And I've been gardening for a few years now, since 2013. So yeah, it's good to get connected with fellow gardeners and learn different things.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming.
We're new. Hi.
Oh, you guys,
We're joining
Katie?
us for dinner tonight with our children. We couldn't normally
How cute.
now we have Zoom. So welcome
We
to our
have a
dinner
front yard garden. We're just
learning.
Wow,
learning,
that's
yeah.
beautiful. What a good idea. Welcome.
And Mary, I was going to check my sound level. Am I coming through loud enough?
Yes, Forrest, we can hear you.
All right.
Good, yeah.
Oh, my name is Tom, and I haven't said much on here. I just turned my camera on, and I just want to let you guys know I grew a beard. I'm trying to look more like Forrest. Okay.
I think you're getting there.
Good aspiration.
Yes, it's looking pretty good so far.
Thank you, sir.
Excellent.
Well, cool.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Bailey. I'm new to the group and I've been studying medicinal herbalism for the last 6 years and avid gardener, and I'm just taking my permaculture design certificate with Austin Permaculture Guild right now. Thanks for having this.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for coming.
Hi, I'm Melinda. I'm new to the group also. I'm an avid gardener. I live in South Austin. I was actually just at Cultivate Garden Center, Holistic Garden Center the other day, which is where Bailey is taking her class. Is that what we're taking? I was looking at that the other day. So I'm super excited to be part of the group. Thanks for having me.
Wow, yeah, I've heard of this place. I haven't been yet. It's so far south.
We've got a few comments in the chat. Perry is new and she gardens over at Sunshine Community Garden. And she's new to the Zoom calls. And then we have Vanessa, who works at the Dallas Public Library, and she works on their seed library and a grow up online program. Very cool. Definitely tell us more about that.
Oh, well, we started the seed library about 4 years ago. And we were hoping mostly to get locally donated seeds, which didn't happen. So it's a lot of commercially grown, but still open pollinated seeds that we get donated. Right now, it's been a little bit challenging getting seeds to people because our buildings are not open to the public.
Mm-hmm.
But we have been able to do some distributions through curbside services. But yeah.
Nice.
I'm excited about this
What
program.
is the procedure for that, to getting seeds at the library?
At first we tried to be all organized and catalog and have people fill out things, but with the amount of seeds that we were running through there, it was not practical. So now, right now, the current procedure is people just email us and request them, and then we send them to the branch that they asked for, and then they're contacted to pick them up. So,
Like picking up a book.
Yes.
Wow, great, good to know.
And I believe the Austin Public Library has a seed library now too. I'm not sure what the status of it is right now, though.
Yeah, it's mostly but I just learned about a group of young high school students that are building seed library like stands, and they were posting on Instagram the other day. They were looking for places to put them around town, and they're actually like climate controlled, like with these little mini fridges. So it's like really elaborate. I was very excited to see it, but I'll look up the name of that group and put it in the chat.
So you got to be able to plug it in?
Yeah, it's got to be plug-inable. So, but it was cool that like these young high school students were, doing a pretty cool project. So yeah.
Anything else in the chat? Anybody else want to say hi or introduce themselves or have something to say? Anybody who said anything in the chat who wants to speak up?
I'm Elisa. I just put my information in the chat. New but interested in organic gardening. And I have to drop off soon, but I'll watch the video later if it gets posted.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
On the YouTube channel and the Facebook.
Oh, great.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm new to the meetings. Can you guys say like other meetings that y'all have had, or like this is the first one I've jumped in on, so I'm just curious what the AOG meetings are usually like.
Well, we have a whole, recordings of everything, don't we, from this year?
From this, all the way back to, I think, August of last year, we started putting things on YouTube. But yeah, so Perry, we've been meeting at Zilker before the pandemic, and the club's been around for quite a while. Like they started off meeting, and I guess our 75-year anniversary was last year, and they met in houses initially, and now eventually, I think starting in the 60s, we started meeting at the Botanical Garden, and then soon, a couple months into COVID, we all started meeting online. But it's it's a combination of people that just have the same passion for organic gardening. It was very fringe initially, but now it's the future, and we all that we continue to grow. I think since September we've added almost 40 plus members or something, new members.
Wow.
Yeah, and
we've grown a lot.
Yeah, and our group is like we have a fundraiser every year, the spring sale, that goes towards like our garden program at Zilker, and also our guest speakers. But all of the they end up supporting, they go directly to Zilker Botanical and support them.
So our main fundraiser is our plant sale, which is coming up in March. And we're still kind of figuring out what that format's going to be, because normally we meet at Zilker and have the plant sale at Zilker, but that's not available this year. And so we'll have news forthcoming about that soon. What else? So our info about our club is online on our website, austinorganicgardeners.org. Also our Facebook and our Instagram, you can find our info. And you know, we're a club who shares information and plants and seeds. And if you have things that you'd like to share, I recently shared that I had a lot of extra pots, and somebody from the group came, or I brought them to them. So I'd love to continue that tradition online. If you have things that you'd like to share, plants, pots, seeds, anything really garden related.
Yeah, and related to that, I wanted to bring up one of the things I'm doing with the Mycological Society is we're helping keep the old mushroom blocks that come from mushroom farms out of the waste stream. And so we were able to get rid of a bunch of them the other day. So if you want to use them in your garden beds, which are really good for adding more organic matter to your soil, introduce good mycorrhizae into the soil, you can just get in touch with me or contact us on the website. I'll get the message, or any of our social media. But
posted to Facebook as well.
Yeah. So yeah, if somebody's looking to grow, you know, it's a way to also grow some mushrooms in your garden. Like you usually get like a couple flushes of mushrooms, and we made a video this past fall that shows you how to do it in your garden. So that's one thing that I'll be giving away like into the future, and have my house be like a touchless sort of pickup location for mushroom blocks.
So is there anything from AAGC that we need to communicate, or a report of any kind? You know about that?
Anything?
None in news. They haven't had a meeting recently. We're collecting volunteer hours, so members will get an email about that. The garden center is open for folks that haven't visited. They have you can purchase tickets online, go visit and see the demonstration garden that Angel mentioned, the club is maintaining.
Yeah, and I can just give a quick update too on the demonstration, or we call them the teaching beds too, because we meet every Saturday and do like an hour and a half sort of working on tending the beds there. But we're just kind of getting into planning our spring garden. And so we'll talk maybe a little bit about that in February. So we were thinking too about maybe having a separate kind of Zoom if people are interested in learning how to plan a garden using some tools. So if you're interested in something like that, maybe just, you know, just let me know in the chat if that sounds like something you want to attend. But looking for people that are interested in donating, you know, plants, or if they have seeds, you know, get some seeds from the Sustainable Food Center. And but yeah, it's really a community project. We want everybody to be involved. And I'll probably post some things on social media, just things for kind of a wish list of plants that we maybe want to add into the Zilker Botanical Garden in spring. So it's just a way to have a little bit of everybody in Zilker in this community space.
Is there any other announcements tonight that anybody would like to share?
This is Iowa. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I got an email from Meredith Giles saying that because we're in phase 5, that the garden center, the volunteers aren't welcome at this point. Is that not in effect? Has anybody checked with him recently?
No, I
welcome or not welcome. I didn't hear that.
Not welcome, not
Not
like he said, because we're in phase 5 of, the shutdown, there'll be no volunteering until further notice, but I don't know whether that was a couple weeks ago or a week and a half ago. So check.
That would make sense.
Yeah, we didn't tell.
Last week they said that because we're that the Zilker Gardens is part of Austin, they told the Herb Society that they could only have 3 people there at a time.
That was before. I know that was before because I went before. But the recent change in status.
Yeah, they've changed it again.
Somebody check before somebody goes. That's all.
We were there this weekend.
And they let you in?
Yes, and there were people there for timed tickets as well. So if the garden is shutting down, that is something new, but we're in frequent contact.
Okay, so
with Meredith.
But you didn't get an email from Meredith saying that there'll be no volunteering until further notice because of the phase? Okay.
Thanks for the heads up, Isla. I'll reach out to him and let him know. But
It's good to check because we've been in stage 5 for more than a week now, and there hold on. There were some other thresholds that were just recently passed to reduce the number of people that can get together. So, looking at the Zilker Botanical Garden website for certain would show what their status is for people coming in.
Yeah, should probably check with that. I mean, it's
we'll just double check. But thanks everybody for giving us.
Good to try to keep everybody safe right now because of the high level of and the new virus coming in that's more contagious.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's all the announcements, I'm going to go on to the garden ponder. Anything else, garden announcement wise? Okay, these are some poems I found inspirational. This one's called "A Blessing for a Gardener." From the glowing burst of sunrise and all the daylight through, may the beauty of the world be a blessing for you. May the gentle touch of springtime and summer's bright array embrace you with their cheerfulness as they color every day. When the sunny gold of autumn is brushed by winter white, may you always hold the hope that sustains us through the night. The hope that returning springtime will dawn and renew earth as the blessings of God's goodness delight you in rebirth. And that was written by Teresa Mary Grass. So I think it's time we move to our speaker now.
Yeah. So Matt, I saw Matt pop in earlier. Do you want to unmute and say hello? And I'll just do a quick introduction. Let's see. Oops.
His picture was just below Mary's, and then it disappeared.
Uh-oh. Let's see. He was on here. Oh, he said he had to, I think he had to go jump on his laptop. So maybe he said, I will be right back.
Okay, well, if I could, I have a comment. Can I say something? Sure. This is a soil. This is a class on soil, right?
Right.
Right. Okay. I just want to make this quick comment about that. When I initially got into garden, I met with the Texas Agriculture Extension Service. And I went to someone who was very knowledgeable, had a lot of experience. And I said, how do I know that my soil is good to grow vegetables? And he proceeded to give me this long, drawn out explanation. Well, you need to check, see how much sand you have, because, we're down here by the beach. By South Padre Island. And he said, well, you need to check your sand and your nitrogen and potassium. And I mean, he just started going on with all this talking about all these nutrients. And I felt inundated because I thought, wow, that's a lot of stuff to check. You know, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure I can do this. And it's funny because maybe about a year later, I went to visit this little mom and pop farm that's in San Benito. It's about 20 miles from where I'm at. And they had a nice spread. They had a couple of acres, but their farm was very organized. They had like patches. Okay, they had like tomatoes over here and lettuce, and everything was spread out. And I went to the man and I said, how do you prepare your soil? And he says, God prepares it. And I was like, God prepares it? He goes, yeah, God prepares the soil. And I went down to one of the areas where, I don't know what he was growing. I think it was celery or something. Anyway, I get to the area and the dirt looks really gray. So I just stuck my finger in it and I ran a line down, and underneath that gray covering was some of the darkest, blackest, most beautiful soil I've ever seen in my life. And it's funny because I thought, well, I guess it just, you know, it just depends on what school of thought you come from in terms of, you know, preparing your soil and adding the nutrients that you need. I mean, there's so many different ways and so many different people do it differently that, you know, I'm beginning to think you just got to work with what works for you. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Do you have a question?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Did you have a question?
No, I just wanted to mention that because, you know, I've seen people that they don't do anything to the soil and they just start growing beautiful vegetables. And then I see other people that spend a lot of money, you know, not just preparing the soil, but, you know, feeding it too, doing the teas and, you know, all the organic feeding and stuff. And
are you growing stuff currently?
Oh yeah. I've got.
How's that going for you?
I'm at the community garden. Well, I've been there for years. I've been really successful. I've got great boxes. Right now, I've got broccoli, curly leaf, cabbage. I've got kale, a lot of kale, cilantro. I've got some Swiss chard. I've got anise, which is different. I've never tried to grow anise. That's that aromatic herb kind of. I mean, it's just, and I don't even like licorice, but I love smelling that. So, yeah, and I've got some onions, some other stuff going. So far, so good. I mean, we're doing okay. Oh, it looks like our speaker's back.
He's back. All right. Well, now on that, I'll let Matt take over here. But yeah, so Matt's coming in, zooming in all the way from California. And he is, I saw him speak last, gosh, it feels like ages ago, but 2019 at a Myco Fest in Pennsylvania. And he was very dynamic and writing curriculum on permaculture for a long time now. And he was just such a great speaker. I thought he would be perfect for helping us dig into the soil, start off the year right. You know, we know that like soil is the foundation. So, you know, I'm going to hand it over. Matt, take it away.
Well, thank you for having me. Can you all hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I wasn't expecting to be in my car. I thought I would be in the comfort of my home. But as you can see, I've got a lot of boxes and they're all filled with books. And today is the day when my books have finally arrived in bulk. So Forgotten Food Forest. It's actually about, it's a historical fiction, but it's based on a real food forest in Morocco. And regenerative soil, which is kind of what I think what we're talking about today. We can talk about whatever you all want to talk about. But let me see. Can we pin my video? Is that possible?
I think it is. Yeah, I think that I can.
I've pinned you already. Are you not? Is it not showing up?
not to my view, but okay. Anyway, I basically have been waiting, as many of you may have, for your Christmas gifts and packages all December, and like certain things just never came. My books, you know, we just had to just go into a warehouse and then find out that part of the reason why it was a week late was someone like 2 steps down the line refused to sign a piece of paper because they weren't just given $15. So I have my books now. It's like the season of if anything can go wrong, it will. Have you guys noticed this? It's like, you know, it's like if you think it might, yeah, is it a little bit risky? It's risky. And we are in that season now. And so I am trying to, you know, roll with the punches as they come towards us, and then celebrate the wins, because I am so stoked. This is my first hardcover. And I love making books. I was a high school English teacher, and before that I was a musician, and I'm a very enthusiastic person, and I love pursuing curiosity and conversing about ideas. And I've always just gotten a lot of energy from just exchange and talking to people. And so I was a high school teacher, and what happened was I was teaching my kids how to do a Kickstarter. And it was at one of those schools where everyone was on a laptop, you know, it was a charter school. And I was trying to motivate them. And then I came up with an idea to demonstrate. And the idea was to write permaculture curriculum. And it went really, really well. And it went so well that I left my job. And so this is what I do full time. I write curriculum, and I create educational materials, and maybe entertaining educational materials at times. But the whole point is so that we can guarantee a brighter future, a more regenerative future, one that is based on permaculture ethics, earth care, people care, and future care. And if we can get that taught and understood broadly, we'll live in a completely different world. And so I've been trying to create the bridge. And I mean, arguably I have been, but I've been building this bridge of education to the regenerative economy, so that not only, because the reality is it's like our educational system and the way we train people leads to jobs, and their skill sets lead to like jobs and an economy that needs them. And that makes sense. And increasingly we've had this growing disconnection between that. And so when I was a teacher, my students didn't have a real guarantee of being like having a solid guarantee that college would give them the kind of skill set they needed to survive in the world. And this increasing disconnect has created this friction. And so for me, I had to find an answer. I was, you know, a high school teacher. And so I'm like, all these students, they are asking hard questions. They're smart. They deserve, you know, equal opportunities like everyone does. You know what I mean? They deserve a chance. And so it was permaculture that helped me find a pathway for everyone, so that we could create a ethical system in which everyone could, through doing the right thing, through putting in hard work, through being a good person, so they could they could have the kind of life that I believe that we all deserve. I really want to see things scale a lot bigger. And so that's why now, I mean, I'm doing these books, I'm doing my courses online, but I've started this free sort of jobs training, job expo, entrepreneurship expo kind of event this week, www.r-future.world. If you just look up R-Future, you'll find it, I'm sure. But it's an event that's online, it's free, and it's for everyone to learn about this new economy, to meet and learn from people who have started their own businesses that are regenerative, that are permacultural, and that are ethical, and make the world a better place, so that they can see themselves in that position, and they can see themselves supporting people in those positions. And it's free, and it really is, again, just part of that arc. I'm trying to create this bridge to that future that doesn't exist clearly or widespreadly or broadly enough for people to all participate in. And the reality is the powers of nature don't change. The universal laws of nature don't change. The abundance and the insights and the partnerships and the synergy, they may have subtle differences, but there's universalities to them in all climates. And so we really have this opportunity, especially as things are breaking down, and there's this recognition that we live in a degenerative system, that we have broken systems, that we have things that need revision, that with things that need to just be composted. We have a lot of things, and we need to take advantage of these problems and see them as opportunities. And what I've been doing is I've been trying to fill that gap. As a teacher, I mean, it's like, wow, there's nothing permacultural for kids. There's nothing permacultural for like the teenagers, and then there's nothing, and there's like permaculture for retirees, right? Initially, right? People who had land, who wanted to retire, who wanted to save money, and then it started working with 20 somethings. But for a long time, there was no higher level permaculture. There was no advanced permaculture. And so that's also something I've been working on too. And we're getting there. We really are getting there. What I've seen is that we have all the pieces, we have all the science. We just need to get people living it, and then people explaining it in a way that spreads. And it's hard to spread things in the current environment, as we all know. There's a lot of rapids in these waters, or breakers, and so it's difficult. But I believe that it's the only option that we have, partnering with the actual system that gave rise to us, the actual system that gives us our health, the actual systems that provide the oxygen, that cycle the CO2. All the actuals are nature, and I grew up in a world that didn't even consider them. I think of that as like 80s think, right? Like the 80s world where like things are like the 80s progress. They're like, everything's gonna get better. Everyone gets synths, and I'm a musician, so. But for real though, I grew up in a world where you didn't question authority, where if you couldn't look it up in the local library, it wasn't real. You didn't see it on the news, it didn't happen. Like, I grew up in a very controlled world, and that's just not the world we live in anymore. Like the textbook at your high school, like it's like very acceptable now to be like, yeah, well, there's plenty of things that are probably not perfectly right in there. Like that was not the case. Like it was like a reveal in college, or my second high school. I went to boarding school halfway through high school, went from public to private. And it was like a reveal when they're like, oh yeah, well, that's actually not true about Columbus, And it's like, wait, what? Like, I remember that moment when like I heard the real story of Columbus, you know what I mean? And people grow up now knowing these things and wanting like a better system, a better representation, better everything. And it's holistic. We want better food. We want better health. We want better education. We want authentic heroes. We want integrity in our leadership. Like we want the real, because we figured out we didn't have it. And I feel like a huge part of my work is getting people the lenses to determine that for themselves. And so we talked about permaculture earlier in the conversation. People are taking PDCs. I love the PDC. I didn't do a PDC for a long time because I didn't want it to end at the piece of paper. I wanted to go further. I wanted us to honor the action of doing it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I want people to, I don't do consulting. Like I don't do the designer thing. I show up for 2 hours and like charge people and all that stuff. I want to teach people so that they can do it all themselves, because it's a mentality, it's a mindset, it's a way of seeing the world, and it changes everything. And as you will find out from doing a PDC, after a while and the information distills in, it is the beginning. It's a window into a completely new world. And when you start developing, and I would say that I've definitely developed my lenses after writing several books on permaculture, writing, an advanced book on permaculture, the first cited and peer-reviewed permaculture book. And it was the first cited since Bill Mollison's 1989 book. So I really feel that once you start delving into the lenses and what becomes permaculture becomes common sense, you begin to see all these nuances and all this. You just begin to see the world in a completely different way, and realize that it's a lifetime of learning. And that's exactly what happened with this book for me. Is it was a completely different, like, do you know there's another side to pH? There's like a twin that creates an XY axis with pH. And it's the actual corrosion rate of each element. So the minerals, and the soils that are like the nutrients, we always kind of smash those words together. But the actual elements have corrosion rates. So, and it's set to pH here and EH here. And EH is measured in millivolts. So we are just entering a completely new modality in our understanding of our world. And it's not, and I'm going to say this now, I'm not a doctor, but I know from insiders in the science world that, and the next thing that's going to come out is how this all deals with the medical. Because all of our bodies, all the plants, the soil, all life, the sky, rain, water, everything is bioelectric, and there's a physics to it. There's a behavior to it, there's properties to it, and they're all interconnected. And you can understand them fluently. I'm developing my fluency still, even after one of the coolest things about when I created this was Chris Trump said this book was an open door, a portal that people can pass through, because I didn't kind of dictate things. I opened the door and didn't like put pins in things, because we're just opening up. We're entering a new space. Let me keep going with the EH pH thing. So you may have soils whose pH is perfect. And then you have something happen, like a disease or a virus or a pest or a toxicity or a deficiency. And you're like, I'm in the Goldilocks zone of pH. What could be happening? And maybe your soils are kind of like locked up and like acting weird. and maybe they're not as nice as the pH kind of shows they should be. And you're like wondering what's going on. And so much of it is this graph. Here, let me show you this graph. So I think things might be backwards because of the camera. I apologize for that, but you can get the idea. All right, so I color coded the EH charts to show you the desirable things and the less desirable things. So you can actually know the EH, pH for certain things. What's really incredible is you begin to understand why certain things are macronutrients, because their EH, pH are all through, excuse me, box, are through the roof. So it's like plants had to evolve with these being macronutrients because the pH and EH is so wide and broad. So EH we measure with millivolts. I'll get to what it is in a second here. But because it's so broad, the plants had to evolve with these being ubiquitous. They couldn't get rid of these, and they couldn't transform them as well, right? So they had to work with them as their whole cations. All right, so EH is the soil's redox potential. Okay, bear with me. We're going to get into chemistry now. So redox is reduction, and it is not the loss of something. Okay, it's really screwy in chemistry. Okay, so when you gain electrons, it's reduction. When you gain in energy, it's reduction. Let's forgive them. But oxidation is the loss of electrons. And I'm going to put a caveat here for a second. It's something I had to wade through and weed out of my book so it was super clear and I was careful. Different branches of science have different definitions for the word oxidation, and it could mean a loss of electron or a gain of oxygen or both, or even another thing. And it's in my book, but we won't get into that. I don't want to confuse anyone, but may I've already. But what we need to understand though is EH is the oxidation reduction rate. So oxidation is the removal of electrons, and reduction is the gain. I'm gonna add another layer. It's a little complexity. When something gains electrons, something else is losing it. So it's perspective based, okay? The complexity grows, but this is the real world. It's always gonna be like this. It's the differentials between pH and EH in the soil, in the rhizosphere around the roots, that actually allows us to exchange things. It's the difference between things that allows things to flow and exchange. And so soil redox is incredibly important. And in fact, redox itself, the concept, is going to change everything. If you guys have ever heard of that guy, Dr. Zach Bush, the triple board certified cancer doctor, I inherited Crohn's disease, and his special drink to help fix the gut lining, literally the action it takes is it increases the charge in the outside of our cells. It increases the charge in the outside of our cells, and that makes us healthier, has better digestion. And if we think about that in redox terms, well, more energy, well, those are like protons and electrons. And so that's reduction. And so we suddenly see that, and then we bounce out. Let's bounce out to further, right? And it's not the metaphysics. This is straight up. This is the chemistry of soil and water, like for real. This is not anything woo-woo. I spent a lot of time talking to world-leading authors of journals, scientific journals, world-leading journal authors, and it's stunning. It is stunning because it's the other half of photosynthesis, okay? So let's think about photosynthesis for a second. You've got these photons coming down, they're causing photosynthesis, and what are they doing with those photosynthates? Oh, the photosynthetic products are all going into the soil. Half them or more are going into the soil. And so what they're doing is they're putting all their energy. So what's going on is that they're investing in this exchange. The ideal food for plants comes from microbes in the soil, in the rhizosphere specifically. And so it's the mycorrhizal fungi, which was mentioned earlier, mycorrhizae, very, very good. But it's also rhizophagy. That's when the roots are literally eating the bacteria and fungi. This was recently discovered. And so they're putting out, protons in exchange for cations. They're putting out carbonaceous oxidation. And so they're releasing the photosynthetic sugars. And they can't even help it. And how do we know this? Well, when they're not healthy, they're releasing simple sugars, which attracts the bacteria and not the more sophisticated fungi, which is the polysaccharide side of the world. And the polysaccharides are going to protect things. They're going to invite the good guys, and that only comes from healthy plants. So we know they can't help it. They're going to be doing photosynthesis and bringing down. They're going to be reducing if they're in healthy soils. So yeah, there's a lot of information I discovered while writing and researching this book that totally made me rethink a lot of the things I've been doing and recommending, like hot compost. Let's think about that through the redox, right? Let's think about it together. Okay, so oxides, right? Okay, we oxidize. Okay. Oxides, those are the things that are like non-soluble. We don't want those. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to turn my compost, my hot compost, and make sure there's a lot of oxygen in there. I'm going to, wait a second. We're oxidizing the pile. Holy cow. That's why there's so much CO2 released. We're oxidizing it. Okay. We are literally chemically burning with oxygen that pile down, because decomposition happens in only two different ways: fermentation and oxidation. So redox suddenly takes a different, completely different thing. I literally could talk months about all this stuff. It's incredible once you start thinking about it and seeing all the connections, because it literally all connects. So our plants are bringing down energy into the soil, and the reality is they're storing it in the organic matter. So all this time we've been talking about organic matter, and then you've probably heard many different stories about organic matter in the soil. Organic matter is food for microbes. But if it was food for microbes, wouldn't all the organic matter just keep disappearing? More true is that it's a byproduct of biological activity, and it's habitat, but it is also at times fuel. But it's really incredibly important to delve into the details. So and this is because the reservoir for all that energy flows into the organic matter. And when we talk about cation exchange capacity, well, cations, they're the ones with the plus on them, and they're the ones that are exchanged with the protons, the H pluses that are coming off the roots of our plants. So as these plants are able to put out these exudates and put out these protons, they're actually allowing for this exchange, the more our soil can hold these nutrients, hold these different properties, the higher the capacity is to hold energy, which means it has the more organic matter, which means it has the lower EH. when we go really low EH, we get like peat moss, right? We get this acidic peat moss. And then when we go really high EH and ends up in the alkaline dry desert area. So what I wanted to show you, what I was running over here to show you, was the chart that that shows the different states, because it is all related. It really is. Here's photosynthesis seen through the eyes of the electrical world. So what happens, sadly, when our soils aren't good or when there's not enough photosynthesis, is our plants put out the means of their own destruction, essentially. And then we probably all have seen this as gardeners, that plant that brings in the pest, it's doing it itself. It's all doing it. And now see this right here, this tells us, well, let's back up, Matt. This channel, new book, this tells us the ideal zone right here. And in that top upper left corner, it's acid and oxidized. It's this dry, oxidized aerobic soil, low organic matter. And then alkaline and oxidized, that's low photosynthesis, nutrient deficiency, and or toxicity, drought, or shade. And then alkaline and reduced, that's compacted, waterlogged soils. And then acid and reduced is the wet, well-structured aerobic soil with high organic matter levels. So aerobic is still there. It wasn't wrong, but you don't build aerobic soils by oxidizing, compost. And Elaine Ingham no longer is turning her piles every other day. Dr. Elaine Ingham, the compost expert that everyone, references and everything. She's my soil mentor. And I've helped her with some of her books. She's helped me with all of my books. But we've gotten to this place now where we're really in this very interesting exchange. And everything's very, very fresh. It's incredible what's going on right now in soil science. Basically, with the information in this book, you can grow food faster. You can grow food more nutritious, higher nutrient density levels, and then you get these higher yields. So you reach the genetic full potential of plants, and then they're disease and pest resistant, and virus resistant. Not again like pests, mind you, like bugs, like the beetles and all those kinds of things. Not like your chipmunks, because we have to remember, like the mice, chipmunks, the deer have this basically the same digestion, not perfectly the same, but basically the same digestion as us. They're mammals, and so it's different for them. So you can have the best plant in the world, but they aren't going to be resistant to a hungry deer if it gets in your fence. And I like to do living fences as a way of feeding the deer and distracting them. But yeah, I just wanted to share this with you because there's so much new insights that come from this idea of EH, this idea of oxidation, this idea of how much energy is being held in the soil. Yeah, that's the soilfoodweb.com, that link that was just put up. Elaine does great work. Elaine focuses on compost and teaching other people to do compost. And I focus on everything that has to deal with soil, because the reality is not everyone needs to or wants to turn a compost. And the reality that we've discovered is not turning the compost is how you get the most beneficial and the largest diversity and the largest amount of biology. There's a lot of new things. And the reason Elaine stopped doing turn compost is because Johnson Sue's research, Dr. Johnson and his wife, and their product Johnson Sue composting, they're bioreactors, they're static bioreactors. And you're putting them in place, you're leaving them for a year So now suddenly grandma's compost doesn't sound so crazy or backwards, does it? Right? You know, that static compost has a ton of value, incredible value, that the hot compost just can't even touch, for real. So yeah, I feel like, again, I've written a book and worked with dozens and dozens of experts. I read more than I've ever read for anything I've ever worked on. I've had to learn the biochemistry of microbes. I've had to delve into the most difficult reading and subject matter. I've had to learn chemistry, like raw chemistry, and then be able to differentiate the lab chemistry from the biochemistry, and then the biochemistry, lab chemistry from the field chemistry. And differentiating all these has been the journey I've been on, so that I could create a manual that would show visually, because there's never been in the history of the world, and this is the craziest thing I discovered, probably. This took me 2.5 months. There's never been anywhere, even online, all the soil cycles for all the soil nutrients for plants. Not even the basic 14 they thought, like in the 90s, the 14, right? No, none of it. So of course, you know, there's the phosphorus cycle. Here, let me get close so you guys can see this. So yeah, I've got the pHs, I've got the caveats, and so you can look at those corrosion rate charts, the EH/pH charts, and then look at the visual, and then you're like, oh, I know why this is this way then and this way then. And that's the thing. I want you to actually have the lens, the visual, the fluency, the micro to macro understanding that only seeing can give, only understanding the actual, like the interactions, the connections. And that's, you know, really what permaculture gave me, is this idea that everything's connected. So you can, you know, put things like this. And so I have this for everything. I have visuals for everything. Let's go to something obscure. Let's go to molybdenum. So everyone's like, what are you going to do for your mow, right? Well, we know where it's cycling. We know where it's from. We know how to get it. And not only that, I have sources and forms. I have toxicity and deficiency, what to do in both instances for every single element. I go over all the different soil testing types because they discovered something. How many of you have done a soil test before? You've done the little shaker test, you know? They've proven that there's little to no correlation between what your plant uptakes and those tests. So the soil tests that even the universities are doing, when they give you back this percentage, this is what's in our region, you know, this is the soil assay. That's not what our plants take up. Nope. And so there is now a revolution of testing, and there are people who are doing plant sap test analysis. And so, and it's not just plants getting like a picture of one leaf. They're getting the oldest leaf and the newest leaf. And what is Elaine doing? Elaine is doing her compost tea and her compost. And she's doing her rule that she created. You know, the thing was, Elaine, is she created the protocols. She created the hot compost protocols so that they could be acceptable at a national level, at an industrial level. And we're not going to get rid of hot compost for industrial composting. But and her protocols for her benchmarks for yeah, like her benchmarks are hundreds to thousands of bacteria per field of view, 1 or more strands of mycorrhizal fungi every 5 fields, 1 or more beneficial protozoa, amoeba, or flagellates every 5 to 10 fields, and 1 beneficial nematode per drop of soil water. So those are her, and then I've got, you know, her recipes and all, but that's what she's been doing. Elaine started working with her dad in the laboratory in University of Minnesota when she was 6. So she was, and this is covered in my advanced course, not many people know this, but in the 90s, they were still creating compost that killed things and they didn't know why. She created the first ecological monograph with her husband and 2 or 3 other experts, and everyone individually represented like one of the elements of the soil food web. I've got an updated soil food web in here as well. It's really critical to get more sophisticated with it to show the different relationships. And so this is the most recent, the most up-to-date soil food web out there. And right below it is all the lanes points about, there's a direct quote from her about soil food web. But what was I saying? I got distracted by the picture. Can you remind me what I was saying, Angel? I can't hear you.
About, you know, you were talking about the lens of like being able to see the soil better, and then you sort of I asked the question about Elaine's composting, you know,
right?
And so yeah, I know that someone else, you know, like kind of bringing up this like idea of more passive composting. Someone asked in the chat, like, would trench composting or something like that be better than doing like, you know, what traditionally people have done with like turning their compost and doing
right. Yeah, I can go back to that. Yeah, so thank you, I appreciate that. I it's easy to get on tangents when everything is related, you know, when everything relates to everything. Very easy and flows with my mind. But I would say that the thing that I've also learned about is plant growth promoting bacteria and fungi, and biofertilizers. And biofertilizers are not the colloquial term that's used in permaculture and natural farming for these like big barrels of fermented stuff. That's not the scientific term. The scientific term biofertilizer refers to microbes that provide fertilizers in situ to plants internally and on roots. So what I've learned is that we can actually reduce things and change things and endophytically inoculate plants so that they get the biology within them that they need, because most of the nutritional value of plants is determined by the inner life. It's not just the rhizosphere and the stuff on the outside of the roots interacting. It's what's inside the plant. So something I mentioned earlier was rhizophagy. It's primary. It's before mycorrhizal fungi. And it was definitely used by mycorrhizal fungi as a pathway. But this is something that is brand new, and it looks like this. This is the first color diagram of this process created. One of the authors of the paper that released this concept went over this with me, and I did an interview with him on this. But what happens is, as they release exudates at the root tip, fungi and bacteria, and we're talking about like soil yeast fungi, right? So very simple. And they're taken in and they're circulated in here, and they're bombarded with reactive oxygen. And so their cell walls are removed and they leak electrolytes. And then their cell walls repopulate as they circulate in the root hairs. And this action actually elongates the root hairs. So root hair growth is part of rhizophagy. And then they're released again at the tips of the root hair. They're like actually like kind of like squirted out bit by bit. And then they repopulate there completely. And some of them are consumed in this process. Some of them are completely consumed, which means that plant roots are eating bacteria and fungi, which, you know, is a new concept to many. So to circle back though, to connect it to the EM, one of the things I learned about was the members of EM several of them can act as biocontrol, plant growth promoting bacteria, and endophytic fungi. So, the cerveza yeast, the baker's yeast, the brewer's yeast that is so common is actually an endophyte. And it kind of makes sense. And then what's so cool about what I've learned with this book is life makes more sense to me now. Like evolutionarily, I understand the way the world works fundamentally, like from like why plants are the way they are to like why soil works the way it does. Like, and so I figured out like EM, because EM has all those yeasts in there. And it has all these plant growth promoting bacteria. I started really realizing the value of it. And then I started doing research on the research that was out there on EM, and it's really fascinating. It as a fertilizer for plants, it depends on the soil. And so you could have like really good soil, and you would have some of these things already present, right? Which makes sense, right? If they're endophytic and in nature. But the way it breaks things down, the way it reduces the soil is incredible. So let's say you've got a pathogenic problem. You've got your plant showing all this stress, this and that. And then you're testing the soil and you're like, oh, I'm in the pathogenic, the viral zone. And you use EM on your soil and on your plant, you lower things 30 millivolts within hours, which is huge. I think it's 57 millivolts is 1 pH scale, and they do connect. Remember, as things get more reduced, they're more waterlogged, and then pH is hydrogen, so H2O. Everything always connects, and that's why it's really important to have the visuals. And if you just go to my website, you can see that I give away tons of pictures on the website, because I want people to have that moment almost without even getting the book. So they're like on my page freaking out, being like, this is the way the world is, you know? And it's like, yes. So yeah. And you asked about how expensive the book is. Well, this book is $75. And the books that I researched, the books that I bought, they're all college textbooks. And kind of my talent as an English teacher is I take all that information and make it into language that we can communicate with children around and teenagers around. And I make it all into visuals. And then I get those experts who wrote those papers to look at it and tell me what I did right or wrong. And then I fix it. So yeah, there's no other book like this. Yeah, I mean, there's no other book like this. And I thought I was gonna do something completely different when I thought I was just gonna like kind of rehash what I already knew and do some connecting between disparate things like Korean natural farming and Elaine's work and I thought I was gonna like connect some people, but I went really below it all down to the enzyme, microbe, and even element and nutrient and their actual interactions. So, but I've done it in a way that's not going to bury anyone and hurt anyone's brains because I kept it visual. And so let me just read some things to you. So do you guys know who Dr. David Holmgren is? He's the co-creator of the concept of permaculture. Bill Mollison was a college professor and he was a 17-year-old kid. So it's like, he's a genius, right? And he's still alive. So if you've not heard of him, he is this like reliquary of living wisdom. And he's also just incredible. You know, the cool thing about this is going to liberate our farmers. I wrote this with all the actual calculations that they can do this at 10,000 acres. They can do this at 100,000 acres. Like I literally made it so that a gardener and an industrial farmer could both pick it up and be like, what? And then like realize how in 5 minutes they could run because what I did was I set it up with charts. I'm all about making things easy. So it's like, and then diagrams and formulas. So you just plug in the numbers. And it's like, these are my compost ingredients if you want to do compost, right? But you're like, oh, well, I have, I did a soil test or I did a plant sap analysis test, and I need particular plant growth promoting bacteria and so you're like, okay, well, what are you looking for? Heavy metal buffers, pathogen fighters? What about ISR, SAR, ROS scavenging, the reactive oxygen scavenging inside the plant roots? That's very, very necessary. Arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, ecto, ericoid, orchid, yeasts, silicate, zinc solubilizers, iron chelators, diazotrophs, those are the nitrogen fixers. The potassium, the phosphorus solubilizers. Potassium you don't need to worry about, that's just everywhere. But yeah, and then I go through everything, so you literally can create charts. You have all the different agars you can use. You can actually grow your own microbes. I've designed, because Peter McCoy of Radical Mycology got me all excited about working with microbes and liquid culture mycelium. And then I realized that same concept of the jar, and then that you could put a syringe through the top and you've got a sterile space inside. That's exactly what we need to do the rhizophage, the rhizobium. You could also do rhizophagus intradices, but that's a AMF. But you could do all these bacteria in these jars. You have to do AMF in bag systems. You have to actually partner with root plants, and then you actually turn the soil from, and that's also in here. But the idea is I wanted to give everyone the tools so that you don't need to buy the microbes on the internet. Maybe you do once, so you can get them, or you can, find them or identify them. And so I wanted everyone to have all the tools. I wanted it to be highly visual. I wanted all the formulas. I wanted all the charts. So you literally could create I have a checklist chart at the end too, and got a huge references section here. So if you like the reference section and the index, if you're into that, I've got that for you too. But yeah, I've got a holistic mineral review here. So you have your deficient, toxic, adequate, source, amount needed, duration and timing, your soil management plan, your holistic plan here. I really have tried to create something that answers every possible question, problem, situation that we could have with the soil. And in doing so, it has completely changed my perspective of how our bodies work, how even the foods I'm eating. Because despite him not wanting to be to record the conversation, he explained why scientists are chomping at the bit and they're trying to get the medical people to speak up, but they won't speak up. Different foods have different effect on the body in terms of EH and redox. And so we are very, very quickly going to have health, understandable to not just like all of us, but like industry-wide. So the food that we eat, the soil that we get, the medicine, we're going to be like, oh, well, I'm reading this EH and this pH. So there's no way I'm taking that on right now. No way I'm eating that. No way I'm going to go do this instead. we are going to see so many changes, and we're going to get rid of so much we're going to streamline so much, because so much of the things that we're doing that were sort of working half the time, and we're like, oh no, 60% of the time this works for a patient, or I worked on my farm, like all that kind of like weird uncertainty. This is where most of the answers are. It's that other leg. It's the bioelectric side of things that we never considered until really recently. And part of the reason why it was so difficult is because you had to have like a platinum. All right, so with like reading an EH, for instance, you have to have like a platinum electrode. The electrode gets populated by bacteria, not fungi, particularly bacteria, within like a certain amount of like minutes or seconds. And you have to take the readings away from everything because it picks up everything. And like, this is like the true EH, and it's very difficult. And so we're just getting good at testing these things. It's the same thing with SAP test analysis. We just started doing it. And then the bionutrient meter, using light to tell you the nutrients that are inside a plant that in a grocery store setting, that's being worked on right now. But what they realize is they can't give you a set reading. They need to actually diagnose all the readings to understand the range of things. So anyway, it's really exciting what it opens up, because possibilities are incredible. What was that last question? I saw it pop up. What will the book teach us, or something?
How much will your book teach us intentionally or inadvertently about human nutrition and biochemistry in addition to plant nutrition? It sounds like they're very related.
It depends on how much you know, really. You know what I mean? Because it's like, because these things are true, when you put them up there, it's not like I'm implying it as much as I'm just stating what's true, and then it is true, so it implies it, like reveal. Does that make sense? I actually actively try not to put myself in it and my opinions in it at all, because I want that to be a clear pathway of non-interference. I've worked with so many students over the years. I have thousands of students online right now. I've worked with thousands of students in person. And the biggest problem I see in schooling and education is the educator putting themselves all over the information, and trying to like own it. And I really feel like opening that door, like if you read my Permaculture Student 2 book, which is free on my website, thepermaculturestudent.com. It's over 400 pages. It's peer reviewed. It's the first peer reviewed permaculture book ever. It's used in colleges and universities. It's the first accredited permaculture book in North America by a government body. You're going to gain more out of this, if that makes sense, because you're going to look at the holistic systems, that not just soil, but the trees and depth, and does that make, and the water systems and all those kind of things. So I don't know personally for you how much over, you know what I mean? I don't know how deep. I mean, you could read this and understand more than I, you know what I mean? Because of the way I've set it up. And that's, I think, part of the reason why it's worked, like why people like, Dr. David Holmgren says soil is so complex, diverse, mysterious, and fundamental to plant, animal, human, and planetary health. It can be daunting for everyone, from those dabbling with food growing for the first time to experienced gardeners and farmers finding things not working like they used to. To find and recommend a reference that integrates and clearly explains the diversity of soil fertility building practices with the latest scientific understandings is difficult, to say the least. Matt Powers' Regenerative Soil is the reference I will be using and recommending for those working from the backyard to the back paddock. And I really believe that it has that value. And I mean, I have Rutgers University their top mycologist, recommends it. So it's an incredibly valuable book. It's written so that you will understand it, and it's written so that you will be able to look at those pictures and ponder upon them and study other things and come back to them and remember them, and it will continue to deepen in meaning because it is nature. That's the thing I'm trying to do, is that like this is a piece of comprehensible nature. It's not me, you know what I mean? And so when you're taking it on board, the possibilities and potential for in-depth for understanding don't have a limit. I mean, it's only limited by our lack of imagination and diligence and persistence, I would say. So it's the most incredible project I've ever had the privilege to work on, and it's a little surreal that I wrote it, to be honest. I like go through it and I'm like, this is amazing, and it's nothing like any of my other books. I feel like I'm a meditator, I'm a prayer. I wake up every morning and meditate for an hour and pray through the whole thing, and I feel like this was a gift for me, given to me to give to others. And so I'm incredibly grateful. Yes, I mean, there are people who I was learning from read my book and were like, well, that's just the best way to, and it was like, okay. So I don't know. I'm flabbergasted that I am where I am. I feel incredibly grateful every single day to be doing what I'm doing. I feel like I somehow got entered into like the Olympics of soil science and mycology, and I don't know how I got there, but there's all these amazing athletes and minds, and they're just doing these amazing feats, and they're like, do it too, and I'm like, okay, and it just, I really am grateful to be here. All right, so let's do one more question, and then I'm gonna roll.
Yeah, so we have, let's see, you can tell your deficiency some from, okay, so I think that was a response to a question in the chat. There was one like small question, just like to reiterate something that you had talked about. You talked about the 17-year-old and someone didn't catch the name. The 17-year-old.
Oh, that's David Holmgren.
David Holmgren. Okay.
That's the co-creator of Permaculture. And
okay.
It's a fantastic story. He was 17, Holmgren. Yeah, and Bill was, in his prime, probably in his 40s, I think. And what Bill did was take his brilliant ideas and help solidify them, and then they began to really co-evolve these ideas. Bill went back to work with the Aborigines. I mean, majority of permaculture is inspired by Australian Aborigines. And it didn't come out as strongly, I think, as it would have if Australian policies with the Aborigines weren't what they were. I mean, they were still taking away children from their families in the 80s. There's movies about this and documentaries. It's awful. And there's a national guilt associated with this that's very prevalent. And they're trying to address it, Meliodora, that's the best. That's right. Yeah, sorry.
Several of the questions are, is it true trees talk to each other? We have access.
Well, okay. They send signals.
Let me just get through them. We have access to bait. How often should we add it to the soil? Let's see. Mycorrhizal, I guess you did that one. It seemed like there was one more. Oh yeah, about the soil test. How do you determine if you don't do soil testing, what are deficiencies?
Oh, like I was saying, plant sap analysis. You see what actually is flowing in the plant. So instead of like the plant leaf matter, where they take the whole plant and then they like quick burn it, and then they're doing like that test to see what's in it. You look what's actually flowing in the xylem and phloem. Actually, I think it's actually specific to the phloem. And you actually look at what's in the plant in that very moment. Yeah, here we are. So 142. It's always good to have a good index, right? Yeah. So the thing is, when you do the traditional whole plant tissue analysis, it can disguise deficiencies. It measures everything that's been in the leaf and is currently in this and is cycling. And so what you're doing with the plant sap analysis test is seeing what is circulating, right. But you're doing it in the first fully grown, so the newest leaf on top, and then the oldest leaf on the bottom. And the reason we do that is because in the plant sap, it's the alarm to make dinner. In the plant sap, you get to see what they're actually passing around, and you can see the nutrients, you can see the microbes, and it's way more accurate. All right, so let's go to those other questions.
Yes, I think there was the one about the do plants really communicate? I think was or do trees really talk?
I can answer that. Yeah. So like the way we communicate, no, but they do communicate 100%. And the sad thing though is when you begin to study this and realize why they communicate and how they communicate, you realize that the forests, the national forests of North America, are all just the equivalent of street strangers in their concrete little balls in New York City. There's no real difference because they were all grown in sterile growing medium in these like nurseries and then put out like a military operation and Douglas firs everywhere. And instead of having a mother tree have their children grow up around them, exchanging genetic information, teaching them, protecting them, giving them nutrients while they're still in the lower canopy, the understory, giving them sugars and photosynthetic, nutrition. We've got these stranger trees and these forests that are actually not all interconnected. They're not. And we're the few remaining places that are, like the redwoods, the coastal forests and stuff, they're severely under attack, or they're so mismanaged that they're all burning. So it's a really, really, it's really cool, but it also brings this burden of responsibility that we need to be inoculating our trees. We need to honor mother trees because they literally are passing on information and preparing those plants in a way that we can't. They're giving them information about past seasons, past extremes, past diseases and viruses. It can't be calculated by us. It literally is incalculable what is being taught, what is being passed on. But we know it's happening. We've been able to tell that much. So yeah, they are communicating, but sadly they aren't communicating because of the way we've man-made the forest over and over again. Almost there. Sorry, my family's in the other vehicle waiting on me. This was not supposed to happen. Again, it's 2020, right? Or 2021 now. It's like they're twins. And if anything can go wrong, it will. And it was $15 that someone along the line had. I would have had it all this morning, but I had to wait hours for the process to process while we were there.
Well,
so
we appreciate
it is all
you coming
good
out, and you did your best, and we're happy that you made it.
Yeah, thanks for.
Yeah, and I have that event this week, so everyone's invited to the event. It is RFuture, r-future.world. That's the website. So www.r-future.world. And that's like a transportation link, and then it takes you to my course website, which is the Kajabi platform, which is an incredible education platform. And there you can sign up for free. All the talks, all the interactives, all the live Q&As are free. Elaine Ingham, of course, will be there. Elaine is, everything I do, Elaine's going to be there, right? But also we've got incredible people. We've got Chef Sean Sherman, the best-selling author, the award-winning author. We've got Jean-Martin Fortier, the market gardener. He's a best-selling author as well. We've got Antoinette Marquez, Amacy Beauty. We have biochar experts. We have William Padilla Brown, Cassandra Posey from MycoFest. We've got Trad Cotter of Mushroom Mountain. We've got Paul Stamets of Fungi Perfecti, revealing the most incredible stories. Not heard on Joe Rogan, all new. But yeah, no, we've got an incredible event this week that you are all invited to. You can download it for less than $50 if you want to keep it all. You guys are upset that Joe Rogan moved to your state or something? That's funny. But my point is anyway that like the information that Paul shares is incredible, and it's not all over the internets. It's actually stuff I've never heard before. That completely like opened my mind about a lot of things about Paul and about myself too. That I just didn't know.
Do you know if it will be
what?
He'll be talking about the bee research? With
yeah, we talked about that a little bit. I interviewed him for it. So I interviewed him and he usually talks about the bees, and we did talk about that. He talked about the bee mushroom thing, which is going to come out and it's kind of secret. He talked about that a little bit, but we actually talked about his business. We talked about starting up and some of the early wins and some of the hard times. And it was really incredible, actually. The thing with this event is because so many people have worked so hard to get where they are, they really care about sharing how they did it, what worked and what didn't. And so I've never been to anything online like this. And I'm getting to see the talks as they come in, and I'm uploading them, so it's pre-recorded so that there's no technical difficulties. Cause that's the number one thing I have a short attention span to a degree. Unless I'm fascinated, I'm going to go look for what fascinates me. And then auditorily, I'm an auditory kind of person, I'm a musician. And so when the sound starts messing up in the Zooms or anything like that, I have a hard time paying attention. If it's like a all-day summit or anything, I'm gone. And so I was like, it had to be really high quality. It had to be really good. It had to be transformative. And so that's what it is. And it's there for free. I hope you all join. I have two of my permaculture books, the Permaculture Student 1 and 2, for free on my website. I've got gardening courses that are free. Your Best Garden is on my website as well. I've got introductory little courses on permaculture for free. My YouTube has, I think, over 500 videos, and I've got my entire audiobook for the Permaculture Student 2 for free on YouTube. So I've really tried to give back as much as I possibly could. I spent 2 years creating the first peer-reviewed permaculture textbook, and then I gave it away. But it's a human right to know how to live regeneratively on this planet. It's the most important thing, I think. And if you would like to purchase my books, you can go to www.thepermaculturestudent.com, because I always feel like I'm a student, a forever student of nature, always learning, always growing. And you can go there, you can get those free books. You can buy ebooks, you can buy the physical books, and I will get them to you. I've got plenty. So please feel free to order some.
Well, I'm glad we got to see the first of them hot off the press, or 15 hours later, hot off the press, I guess. Or you had to wait quite a while, but Well,
Yeah,
thank
the
you
madness.
so much for sharing your enthusiasm for the soil and kicking us off. And we'll see you next week at your conference. And I've shared it in the chat for everyone to be able to link up to it. And yeah, so we'll send you off to go make dinner.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.
Live regeneratively.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks for coming, everyone. And if you want to get emails on our next meetings, you can sign up on our website.
Does anybody have any questions tonight of anything they'd like to get answered?
I actually, when I was out this morning, I went out to cover a few things since it's supposed to be a freeze tonight. And I noticed that I already have asparagus coming up. This is supposed to be the first year I'm going to be able to harvest asparagus. And I'm going, wait a minute, it's January. We're about to have a freeze. Why is my asparagus coming up so early? And should I just leave it, or should I go ahead and start harvesting it because it's up and it's not going to?
How far up?
Well, I've had some, they're 6 to 12 inches.
Yeah, I'd harvest that.
Okay. I guess I'm going to be eating asparagus early. It was like, I didn't know if it's like.
It's like a couple inches, 2 inches, you can just put some leaves on it or something.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm getting asparagus this year. Yay.
Yeah, it doesn't taste too good if you wait longer than 6 to 12 inches.
Yeah. Today was the first time I noticed it because I was not expecting it. And of course, the mild winters we've been having, there's so much still green foliage. It's not like it's been cut back and they're obvious.
Mary, what variety are you using?
I have the ones that I'm going to be harvesting now are a green one that I got at Natural Gardener back when they did sell
bare root.
It's probably one of those.
Most are Martha Washington or
Probably
one
something
other
like Jersey
variety.
Giant or Martha Washington or whatever. And then I have some new ones that I'm going to have to wait a few years for. I've got some purple ones online.
Mary, the Natural Gardener, this is Debbie speaking, but the Natural Gardener gardening show that comes on Saturday and Sunday. Do you ever listen to that? On from
Gardening Naturally.
Yeah, that one. Yes.
I just keep forgetting to turn the radio on.
And other people were commenting the same thing. They're like, they've got a lot of blooms that they didn't expect at all this early, kind of pre-winter season. And the response was just that, nature doesn't know seasons or, anything like us. So like if they get enough sun, some of the plants and such, they're just going to go ahead and take off on their own,
Yeah.
And maybe that's what happened with your asparagus.
I guess well, I love asparagus, so.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
Yeah, it's been kind of unseasonably warm, I guess, and so plants are confused.
Yes.
The seasons have become very
confused. The plants are confused.
They are. It's become seasons have become very confused because of the heat.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it's true.
Any other questions?
Well, I do want to ask one more thing. I wrote it in my questions, and thank y'all for answering the one about the trees or asking that Angel about the trees. I appreciate it. Because there's actually a book about that, Trees That Talk to Each Other or something, which is pretty fascinating. I have not read it, but I've heard a lot about it. But no, I was wondering about fish emulsion because I'm also a member of the Awesome Pond Society. And I call it like holy water or magic water or something, but it's like plants love it. And I don't know enough about chemistry and all that this guy was saying, but he's a fascinating speaker. But I know that there's some kind of balance, in the water, like don't ask me what, but that when that particular water goes on plants versus like freaking hard Austin City water, loaded with chemicals, etc. They just love it. They absolutely love it. It's like
pond water is fish poop water.
Exactly.
What's not polite for a plant?
It's not
Do
polite
you
for a
happen to
plant.
know what the ratio of fish emulsion you can put in a pond is? Do you have anybody happen to know that?
I don't. I can just say what I've learned is it's based on the gallon. Like, well, ours is just one of ours is just like 400 gallons, so it's just tiny. So I have like small koi in it, not big koi. You know. In terms of fish emulsion, I have no idea. I mean, I don't know when they. I don't know about that. I can't answer that question. Maybe the pond people could.
I have been, you get the pond muck that you can dredge up from the bottom. And I have been using that in my gardens. And I think that the gardens have responded.
Oh, I'm telling you, no, they love it. I mean, if I could figure out a way to what do you call it, siphon out that water directly into the garden, I like to do that, But I think it addresses something about what he's talking about in terms of, the pH, because you have like pH, you have nitrogen, you have all different kinds of natural, what am I trying to say? Natural, products or whatever they're called, elements, minerals that, become part of the water that when you feed it back to the plants, it's really healthy, for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you can buy fish emulsion at most of the garden stores.
Right. Yes.
That kind of ways to get a lot. If your plants are nitrogen deficient, it's like a great way to give them their nitrogen.
Right.
Anyone else have any questions?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, first.
Okay. Well, someone early on before the meeting mentioned that they were getting confused by all the recommendations of adding this and adding that. And I wanted to mention that many people in our garden club find you've got to add compost. Keep adding compost because the heat around here burns the compost out of the soil. And it adds a lot of your nutrients, but the other thing that we're low on generally that you might need to add would be nitrogen from fish emulsion,
right?
Cottonseed meal, let's see, your blood meal. So there aren't too many things that people around Austin need to add more than that. But a good soil test now and then would let you know that if there's something in too much excess, so that you don't add it, and if you're really missing something. But I was kind of sorry for that person. It sounded like they were overwhelmed by all the suggestions that the person had. But in organic gardening, it isn't that many things that you have to add. But it depends on what soil you start with.
Mm-hmm. The plants deplete the plants that you grow and eat. They take things out, and so when you have to put things back in, it's a cycle. So if you're taking things out and you're eating them and stuff, but you're not adding, then your dirt will become depleted from all the vegetables and things that you grow. So it's always good practice to every season add something back so that it has something to uptake and to grow the new plant cycle.
But the compost has a lot of the essential elements too, so it covers a lot
of that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Compost is the way to add back.
I have a question. Can we still get our seaweed?
Well, Russell doesn't come to these meetings. He's not really online, and last we saw him, he wasn't in good health. But you could probably give him a call and ask him.
Okay. I didn't know if somebody else took over. Okay, I'll call him.
Yeah, online sort of prohibits the giving and exchanging of goods.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
very prohibiting.
However, unfortunately, if we can't get it from our club through this,
it's expensive.
Is at most any of your nurseries.
Yeah.
In liquid form to go ahead.
Well, I can't use fish emulsion because I have a dog, and he wants to figure out where that fish is.
Well,
I've had that same problem.
Oh, that's funny. Really?
Try using blood meal and bone meal if you want your garden dug up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard of cats, but you mean the dog will chase the fish? I mean, well, what do you
Oh,
say?
they'll dig it up looking for fish. Oh yeah, my dogs. I planted some flowers one time with fish emulsion, and I found them thrown across the yard, and then I realized, oh, my dog is looking for that fish.
Oh
digging it up.
no.
I have to put little fences around my gardens for my dog.
Me too.
They're short, but yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what I need to do. When she was a
I-
puppy.
I found that fascinating that he was saying that like some of the big box stores, did I understand that correctly? Like, I'm guessing he's saying Home Depot, Lowe's, etc., is studying the light, on top of the soil as well, right? For the plants before he sells them. Did y'all hear that?
Studying
He
the
was-
light.
Maybe like even just like groceries too.
Yeah,
Like nutrients, like probably even for like companies like Whole Foods and whatnot, like they maybe even like trying to determine before they even buy from like, I don't know, maybe it may actually be just the garden stores, but yeah. Yeah, I wonder if it's something we noticed in labeling. What did you say, Mary?
I'm sorry, what is it? What are you talking about?
Oh, so you were talking about like the light, like using light technology to read the nutrients in plants, and then it's something that's like
a meter.
Yeah, like a meter, and then perhaps I don't know if it's something that they add in like labeling, or like what the benefit of that would be besides like for I don't know if it would be the benefit would be like in purchasing or like telling people the nutrient density. Not sure.
I thought he was talking about just the lighting in general over the plants, So like, like if you get, well, I don't know, like Lowe's or whatever has, I'm just throwing that for example, but has outdoors, outdoor plants. Well, so do all the gardening centers, but but the lighting, the inside lighting is what I understood him to say. Maybe I misread, maybe I misunderstood him, but
Yeah.
That would be talking about things that are grown hydroponically or whatever.
Probably, yeah.
Like where they tell this sort of like what light spectromic or light spectrometry. That word. Spectrometry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add quickly to the discussion about compost and